man, Future Wizard's done me right dirty.
Future Wizard here, and today I'm going to do a tutorial on how to make a Reese bass.
Dirty.
Now, if you know about jungle and drum and bass, you know that a Reese bass is a standard. It's been around forever, it sounds great, people still use it. It's easy to make, and I'm going to show you how to make it in Europa, which comes with Reason 10. That way you have the tools you need as long as you're using Reason. So first off, to get to it, I've already made a drum line, little beat. It's just a collection of breakbeat samples I kind of chopped up a bit. Here it is. All right, it's good, right? So it needs like a Reese, like something like that. All right, so let's go ahead and jump to it. And I have actually already built the patch, but I'm going to start from scratch here. So first thing we're going to need to do is let's make a brand new Europa. Something I do, kind of a best practice. When I start something, I combine it. So now I have my Europa in a combinator, and I can put all my effects, all my stuff in there, and keep it nice and clean in the combinator. So I like to throw a little background I designed on there. Righto. So first thing we want to do in Europa is let's select engine 1 and engine 2. So we have 2 going, and right now it's just a crappy sine wave, sounds boring, nobody will listen to that. We're going to set this to saw triangle, the second one to saw triangle. And that's a saw wave. If you morph it, it turns into a triangle. Very cool. Keep them all to the left. So right now we have a very basic saw wave. Okay, now the key to a Reese is that they're detuned. So this first engine, wave 1, second engine, wave 2, we're going to crank this tune all the way to the right. Now when we hit the key, it's going to sound like. All right, kind of getting that jungle vibe. So you could take it a step forward, and let's go down an octave here. All right, that is the basics. So first thing I like to do pretty much on any bass is I'm going to change the key mode right here to Legato, and I'm going to change the max number of voices to 1. So now when we go between notes, it is going to ride up and down with 1 note present. Turn the portamento on, add your glide time, and now you have a little, which is cool, and you can change that to however you want. I like it around 67. All right, so the bass is done. That's it. Super simple. Maybe give it a little attack so there's no clipping, a little release, but that's really all you need to worry about. Now you can also throw these into a filter. So what you can do is throw engine 1, engine 2 into the filter. And right now, obviously, it's lighter. So this is a very cool effect. Throw a little drive on there. Let's leave it up top for now, because we want it as wide as possible. But later, what I'll show you, since we have a combinator, we can edit all this crap, make it real nice. And I'll show you that here in a second. But the second thing about a Reese is it has to be distorted. It has to sound crunchy, nasty, give you the bass, and it needs to hit, especially on those low frequencies. That is a top priority. So we're going to throw the Scream Distortion. Again, comes with Reason 10. It's been around for a lot longer than that, so odds are you have it. And even if you're not using Reason 10, you could do this with Maelstrom. You could do it with Subtractor. A Reese is simply 2 saw waves, detuned, simple. All right, so I already have my settings ready for Scream because I have done this before. And what we have is our damage set to about like 35%. We have it on tape saturation with the speed cranked up. We have the, compression down, so no dynamics. We're going to compress it later. Don't worry about it. Cut. Don't mess with it. You can later. Again, there's no science to this. This is just how I do it. And for the body, kind of important, I set the resolution or the not resolution, resonance to about 45. Cool. And scale, 127 all the way, auto, 0. These are, I believe, the default settings when you load up the tape satch feature of this. Mode D is my personal favorite, and that's a tip I learned from another tutorial by, I believe, I want to say it was Lensman, who uses Reason, and he's a genius. His tunes are amazing. So, enough talking. Let's listen to it with the Reese on there. That's the Reese with the distortion, and this is without. With. Alright, and you can mess with all these settings. Cool. You can set that up to your MIDI keyboard. Simply right-click here, edit remote mapping, tweak your knobs on your keyboard. You can spend hours doing that. Cool. So that's that. Next thing I like to do with a combinator is I'm going to throw a limiter on there. And this is mostly to make sure I'm not clipping too hard. I tend to use limiters at the end of most of my channels, my buses. So like for this one, see it's coming out of combinator 2. We could call that Reese, right? Make it a nice lemon color. And we can route this to a new bus. And all that means is it's just making a new channel. Anything that's routed to this will play through here. So if you have like 15 cents and you want them all to go through one channel and then you add reverb to that one channel, it's much quicker. Anyways, I always turn my buses red just because I think it's pretty. So let's call it bass. All right, easy. So let's go to the rack, click the rack button, it'll take you there. And for bass, I am going to throw a limiter on there. Now, there is one that comes with Reason. I really like the kilohertz limiter, and I really like the Kratos 2 maximizer, which is in the Reason rack extension shop. It's probably my favorite. So with the limiter, let's turn the ceiling down so it doesn't get above 4. Now you can see right here, when I hit the Reese, we're peaking in red. But as I'm turning that down, it is limiting it so it doesn't go over -4. Turn the oversampling to 4, makes it sound better. Texture, all this you can change up. You can add a little. I like to get this right down to 0. Okay, so cool. From here you can add, EQs, reverb. I'll show you how to do another trick that's super cool. But you could drop it right here, and you could have your little melody. And I haven't really prepared a melody here, but it's pretty simple, right? So let's just do. All right, and something else I do when I have legato, right? So when you're holding a key down, and you hit another, it's going to curve up there. So what I do is I leave a little overlap. So this note's going to curve up to this note, curve down to this note. Very cool. So it'll sound like this. Very simple. Sounds cool. You can move your time, and by doing this, you're going to get a longer kind of rise like this. All right, cool. So I like, again, around 70%, something like that. Okay, so that's cool. Now let's mess with it a bit, right? So we have our intimidating combinator programmer section. I have typed in under this knob filter, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to set this button to mess with this knob, and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, So first thing you want to do is check the module you're going to be messing with, right? So this button, you're messing with the Europa. If you were messing with the scream down here, choose the scream. So rotary 1 is going to be this guy. We called it filter. The target for this is going to be, let me see here, filter, and that is what? Frequency. Okay, so filter frequency, let's set the default value to the top. All right, and you know, something's not right here. Okay, thanks for bearing with me. So we have filter freak, sounds cool, set up. First, we have the lowest, right? So the lowest on here is going to be 37.6. You can't hear anything there. But around 614, you get that kind of deep, dark, menacing. Let's do 987, right? So the maximum is going to be 987. Again, bear with me. I swear I'm not usually this dumb. 987. That's fine. I wish you could just type it in here. Let's do 993. Okay, cool. And the max is going to be 16.7. So this knob goes from this mark to 16.7. So here to here. All right, so let's set it down. All right, so that's cool. And we could even lower it a bit, give it more of a menacing vibe. And let's tweak this a bit, right? And we have different envelopes we can use. We have all kinds of stuff we can use, all right? So now I'm gonna use the button I have assigned to this guy, which is gonna be here on my little launch pad. Cool, that's great. So second one we could do is speed, right? And that's the speed if you listen to it. Oops, turn that filter back up. That wow, 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 wow. So the cool thing about this is that speed that you just heard of the wobble changes between frequencies. So if it's higher, it's gonna go like lower, and that's a cool sound. That's part of what makes the Reese so authentic and special. Sorry, I get into this stuff. So what we're gonna do here is we're going to have this button here editing the tune, if you remember earlier, on engine 2. And that's just, it's just tuning the second wave a little different from the first. And a little difference goes a long way when you're talking Reese's. So rotary 2. Again, this is going to be affecting Europa, so we keep it on Europa. Rotary 2, engine 2, which is right over here, engine 2, and engine 2 tune. Okay. So, bear with me, there's a little trial and error with this stuff. So right now, we have it at 50. 0, 0, 0, right? So there's no difference. When you have 0, they are in tune. So let's set it to 50, right? And again, I'm going to map this to my MIDI keyboard. And let's play a note. Cool. So already we have some good little buttons and knobs. So let's play this again. Let's mute out the drums for a sec and just listen to the actual Reese. All right, so it sounds good. I could use a bit more distortion. Something cool you can do here is you can actually increase the damage. That's going to give it some more pop. And again, even with this, So let's make a third knob, right? And let's call this Distortion. And just a good thing to do while you're messing with this combinator, just call it Reese tutorial. That way you can drop this into any recent project. It's super easy. Add your own background, make it look cool, impress your friends. Your grandparents will be proud of you. They'll send you money. All right, so this one, Rotary 3, that's going to be affecting the scream. So Rotary 3, which is the third one, right? This is going to be affecting first. Let's scroll down so we can see what's going on here, right? So Scream Rotary 3 is going to be affecting the master damage, which again sounds really cool. Right now we have the damage at 53. So let's set it to like 33 and set the max to like 90. You could do whatever you want here. I truly, this is just an example. I'm going to set this to a little knob on my keyboard, or you can play with it by hand. That's what she said. Alright, so that's just turning up the damage, and in turn it's turning up the gain, because the more damage you add, the more distortion, the louder it's going to be. Now what you can also do, if you want, is you can add another Rotary 3 control. So Rotary 3 is now controlling the damage, but we can also set it to mess. I'm going to turn this on for a second. With the scale, with the auto, with the resolution. In fact, let's set the resolution to about 60 because that bass is thick. Alright? And just a side note, mess with all these other things. I'm not going to get into it. I'm trying to not ramble too much, but that's just not my style. Anyways, so we're going to go back up here. Rotary 3 controls the damage. That's done. Rotary 3 is also going to control the scale. Alright, so let's do body scale. It's going to start at what we have it now, which is 127. So what that means is when this knob is all the way to the left, this knob is all the way to the right at 127. You can turn it down to 0. Alright, so I'm going to play it back, turn the filter all the way up, and just mess with this third knob. Alright, and that gets pretty loud, and again, that's why you want that limiter, people. Alright, so let's drop the ceiling on here a little bit so we're not getting too high. And you can see the Reese itself is going way into the red, but the limiter's holding this back, right? So just to keep it safe, we'll drop it here. I have a limiter on my stream too, so they're just trying to keep it in a safe place for you guys. It doesn't blow your ears. I'm gonna drop this down because I feel that anything over about 70 is insane. So we'll set the normal to about 40 and this to about 70. And let's try it again. Let's play this. Okay, cool. So now I wouldn't be really messing with this filter. I'd rather do it in a separate module, but you're good to go here. With this, you have your Reese. You can close all this stuff, save this, and you're good. You can drop that into a track. I think it is fine. There's ways to make it better. You can just compile more and more onto this, and if you stick around, I'm going to do that a little bit, but let's just listen to it with the drums. All right. Cool. Okay, so going forward, here's something I like to do. And this is maybe going a little too far, but you can split the frequencies, right? Reason has the ability to split your frequencies, and I'll show you what I mean. What I'm going to do is split this Reese sound. Half of it's going to be the low frequency, half of it's going to be the high. We're going to process the low differently than we process the high. So you can add like reverb to the high, and it's not going to make the bass all muddy and sound crappy. You don't want to be adding reverb to bass, and yeah, I'm tripping myself up. Anyways, so what we want to do is go to effects all the way to the bottom here. It is, what does Reason call this thing? Something stereo. And I'm almost positive this does actually come with Reason. Yeah, it's going to be the M-Class Stereo Imager. All right, so we're going to put this here. Okay, thanks for bearing with me. So I changed some stuff up. I got into the deep end. So here's what I did, okay? So I have my Reese here, and you see I've made two new mix channels. One's called Reese Low, one's called Reese High, and we have a new bus channel just called straight up Reese, okay? Here's what's happening. Everything that goes through the screen is now going to the stereo imager, okay? What's happening is, let me get rid of these cables. You can see right here, if you look closely, that low band and high band are different. So I set low band, and my output with low band is set to Reese Low. And the way you would do this is route to new mix channel, call that mix channel Reese Low. All right. So I set everything under 589 to be low. So by isolating that here, I'm sending 589 hertz and below to the Reese Low. Now, separately, I made another one, a daisy chain. This one, again, split at 589. This one's isolating the high. And the output here is going to Reese High. So we have this channel. We have this, which is just the low. We have this, just the high. Okay, so the reason I did this is because, one, I've set Reese Low to mono, okay? Because bass lines work a lot better in mono, especially sub bass. Whereas Reese High, the high frequencies are wide as can be. So what you got here is both of these are being routed to this, which is just the main Reese out. This has a maximizer, a limiter, and you can tell, even though I'm in the red here, I am not in the red here. And that's because I set this to limit so it doesn't go above -5 decibels. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. Let's look at Reese High. So what I did on Reese High is I added a nice little bit of reverb. So when you listen to it together, you can kind of hear that reverb. It's subtle, but you could do a lot of other stuff. Like if you wanted to, you could add a phaser on the high, or I like to make the width a bit thicker on the high. So I do something like this, right? I'd throw the kilohertz with a stereo plugin, And let's isolate just the highs. So without, with. All right, so that's adding with. So you got, turn the reverb off a bit. Reverb gives it a thickness, right? So I went over a lot, and it does get technical, and you know, you can go back and pause this video. You can ask me questions in the comments. I've been doing this a while, but what I want to do now is let's unmute it. We're going to keep this muted because it's a duplicate sound, right? If this plays on top of Reese low and Reese high, it's all going to phase out and sound like a transformer, like, you know, dumpster baby diaper fire. But we're going to unmute the drums, and we got. Cool. I'm good with that. That sounds dope. Now you may be asking, what else could I do, right? So we have this re-slow channel. It's big, bad, and dirty. Bass is thick. We could EQ it if we wanted to. I'm not going to mess with that. Let's go ahead and clean this up. Let's not look at all these devices. Blah, blah, blah. All right, so we have our drums. And what I did is I used the same technique. I split the drums into different frequencies, okay? So the drums are going through here, and the highs would be anything above 787, the lows below 787. Let's put that again to about 589, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to isolate the lows and put that in a new mix channel, okay? And let's call this drums low. Caps lock, screw me over. All right, so all this new channel is in here. Let me bring our mixer out a bit. All the new channel is it's just the low part of the drums. All right. Cool. And again, these need their own limiter. What I would do is I would combine these, and I would basically route them all, these two, to a new drum bus called drums. Shit. Trying not to cuss on here. All right. So this is our drum bus, right? Again, I turn all my buses red because that's just how I remember things, right? And just real quick, take 2 seconds on this. We're going to throw a limiter on it. Let's do the kilohertz limiter. Highly recommend. All kilohertz products are amazing. So now we have that going through this limiter. And that's just making sure this thing doesn't go too far above 0. The thing being the levels. And, you know, it needs some work. The drums, you can split the highs. That's another video. I'll tell you how to process drums on the next one. All I want to do on here is I want to take these lows. We have a parallel out. So right now, the output of the drum low is just going to the mixer, going to right here, and just making it play right on drums low. But we can use this parallel output to do this. We open our Reese, okay? We have Reese split into low and high. So how about every time a low frequency of the drum hits, what we're gonna do is we're gonna dip out the low frequency on the Reese, okay? So what that's gonna do is sidechain, okay? It's a little hard to explain. If you know sidechaining, it's a great tool. This is what I'm doing basically. I'm having the parallel out of the Reese low, or the parallel out of the drums low, which is the boom, you know, this part basically. Anytime one of those sounds from that low drum channel goes to the low Reese channel, which is, it's going to compress it. And to turn that on, we have to hit this compression button, turn the ratio up, turn the release a little lower. I'll keep it in the middle so you can really hear it. Turn the threshold down fast. I won't mess with it. Now you hear it. So this is an extreme setting, right? We could turn the threshold down so it's not hitting it so hard. But I want it to hit hard just for example, right? So now when we combine the Reeses, you hear that the high is not affected because the low frequencies of the drums aren't going to clash with the high, but the low frequencies of the drums are going to clash with the lows of the Reese. Alright, so you can't even hear it as much. What a lot of people do is they're going to actually throw a sidechain on the whole thing. So the whole bass dips out when a kick hits. And I think the better way to do it is only to throw the sidechain on the low. Okay? This was a lot of information. What I'm going to do is I am going to do a separate tutorial on how to split your frequencies for drums. When you split your frequencies, you can control the highs differently, the lows differently, the mids. There are a lot of plugins you can purchase that do this in a fancy way. Reason has it built in with the stereo imager, and a lot of people don't know about it, and that's a big purpose of this video. But also now you know how to make a Reese. Very simple. You can do it with Europa. You can do it with almost any synth. The stereo imaging, all that crap, that's just extra stuff. But I wanted to give you more of an in-depth look at how to really, you know, start to dig into your bass lines and make sure they're right sonically and nothing's going to clash. So that is it for me for now. And I will be putting up a new video soon, more focusing on drums and some new phase plant stuff coming. So peace. Y'all take it easy. Stay safe and stay put and stay quarantined. All right, later.
To the future.